cube. And we are all set up and ready to go. So let's just get started. Alright. I don't know what that pop-up was about, but apparently it wasn't important. Alright, currently waiting. Let's find an opponent. Alright, opponent found. And they have a Teferi. Teferi avatar. So maybe some sort of blue-white control, but also probably not. These things frequently mean nothing. Alright. We have a good hand. We've got 2 lands, both of which will be untapped. Got a bunch of 2-drops. Not the most amazing hand in the world, but it's like pretty good. Alright. Chalk into Steam Vents, looking like Is It Phoenix? Really looking like Is It Phoenix? It could also be that Lotus Field deck. Or, yeah, it's a Lotus Field deck, right? Let's play a Fear of Missing Out. Get rid of a Fatal Push. Alright, we find our 3rd land drop. That's huge. Another Consider. Basic Island, and another Consider. Alright. We hit a 3rd land, which is only untapped this turn, so we'll play that one. The old triple Blackleaf Cliffs mana base. Pretty cool. Alright. Now, do we just jam Sheoldred into play? If they're going to Fiery Impulse my Fear of Missing Out, and put a Phoenix in the bin, I think we sort of have to just jam Sheoldred into play. I will discard 2 cards that aren't, like, amazing here. Just a land and a random 2-drop. And play Sheoldred and hope they don't have Lava Axe. If they don't have Lava Axe, they basically just instantly die. They drew a card and Picklock Prankster. So Sheoldred is going to mess them up for trying this. They put another Phoenix in the bin, which is not great. And a Sleight of Hand, which puts another Phoenix in the bin. Yeah, okay, and they concede. Unsurprising. Alright, so we're going to take in Graveyard Hate, multiple spells a turn, Extinction Event. Fatal Push is bad against Phoenixes. It technically can hit Picklock Pranksters, but that's not really a huge deal. Go for the Throat is bad. Same reasons. Dress and Thoughtseize are pretty good. Like, if we can take them off with Critical Mass, that helps a lot. And, let's see, maybe small ground creatures can go. Never going to be blocking with those. Attacking could be useful, but it's sort of hard to race like that. Alright, so opponent is definitely going to have Lava Axes now. Is it Lightning Axe? The one that deals 5 damage to Sheoldred and kills it. You know the one I'm talking about. This hand sort of does nothing until turn 3. This hand is fantastic. I'm going to get rid of... God, all these cards are good. I'm going to get rid of Mutavault to keep my colored sources. Alright, draw Mutavault anyway. I'm going to go Blackland Thoughtseize. Now this is sort of risky if I don't hit double red. Alright, take the Treasure Cruise. Leaving them with an Artist's Talent is not great, but Treasure Cruise is clearly the problem here. Right, so they get to resolve their artist talent. Oh, and I top deck the Duress, which would have been fantastic. Alright, the good news is they have 0 cantrips, except for Picklock Prankster. God, if I had drawn the second discard spell beforehand and taken Artist's Talent and Treasure Cruise, it would have basically been lights out. Right, we top deck Unholy Annex, which is great. Not under that much pressure right now, so I'm fine with pinging myself a little bit. No Phoenixes in the bin. If they find a Treasure Cruise, they will be able to delve. And they have a billion looks, because they did obviously find cantrips and such. Alright. Another sleight of hand. I assume they're going to hit a Treasure Cruise and cast it. Alright, no Treasure Cruise. This turn, maybe... Hang on, do they still have a land drop they can make? They could go land Treasure Cruise. They don't. Alright, draw an Urborg. Punished for Pathway on black. Take a Consider. Play an Urborg. And I guess I'll smack you. Nothing else to do with my mana. It's safe for now. Alright, we find the second Pathway, which does beat the Arclight Phoenixes, because now I have double red for Anger. Oh boy, Damping Sphere. You'll love to see it. Alright, they have mana up for Lightning Axe. And I'm not going to fire up my Mutavault and just get it killed for no value. Alright, Quarry Steel Cutter. That's a reasonable sideboard juke around Graveyard. Alright, they don't have black mana available at the moment. Lightning Axe does 5. I think we fire up the old Demon and continue draining them. So the Demon is bigger than Lightning Axe. So they pretty much need to like attack with the Phoenix, get me to block, plus Lightning Axe. Right, they just fire up Artist's Talent. Second Torch the Tower is spectacular. Thoughtseize, I'll take a Lightning Axe, I guess. And attack you for 6. And I think the clock is just too good for me at this point. Like, with double Torch the Tower, they're not getting any fast kills. It looks like they did find, based on how they're hovering their graveyard, they find a Treasure Cruise eventually. But this is going to be too little too late. Double Torch means I take almost no damage here. And actually, they just have to chump block. They have to plan on defensive Phoenix, I think, but then Anger of the Gods beats that. Or no, double Torch the Tower, because Anger of the Gods would put the Demon in Lightning Axe range. Alright, you have a Monk. I don't really care about your Monk. Doesn't fly. Only has so many keywords. Doesn't have double strike or anything. I don't know why. Sometimes I think this card is just literally Edbercleave, but better. It's not. They are tapping out, which means I believe they're dead. So with Damping Sphere in play, they can't cast any spells. Which means... Alright, yeah, the Phoenixes all come back. Alright, that's smart. Ultimately doesn't work because I have the Anger of the Gods to clear out all of their blockers simultaneously. And also I have the second Unholy Annex to drain them for 4, even if I didn't. Alright. Nice, respectable victory. Back up to Diamond 1 for what feels like the billionth time. Alright, let's do another one. Alright, currently waiting. Oh, find an opponent almost immediately. Love to see it. Liliana Avatar, also in Diamond 1. Alright. Thoughtseize into Fear of Missing Out, but no other spells. But Fear of Missing Out cycles. Let's try keeping this. It's probably wrong, but oh well. Opponent goes Sleight of Hand. So I'm going to the old Shock Thoughtseize. Take your Artist Talent. So we drew another land, which is not great, and another land, which is also not great. So let's get rid of one of these Shock lands and find another Fear of Missing Out. That's pretty good. That can turn another land into another card draw. Bro, I need to not draw lands every turn. Alright, we get rid of a tap land. Find another Fear of Missing Out. Alright. Fear of Missing Out tribal, apparently. Opponent has Corey Steel Cutter. They could have Lightning Axed, cast their second spell, got a Monk. They chose not to. Alright, I'm going to make my attacks and cast a Fable, so all of these lands won't be as much of a problem. Okay, no. I knew they had Spell Pierce. I could have played around that. It was a little loose. Oh no, they're casting 2 spells this turn. Okay. That's fine. So they have a Phoenix in the bin, they have a Monk in play. But they also have a large number of lands. Let's play Fear of Missing Out. Get rid of probably Haunted Ridge. The other lands do something technically. Alright. Unholy Annex is good. But yeah, actually Unholy Annex is good enough. I'm going to run it out. If they have a Spell Pierce, they have a Spell Pierce. And if they have crazy aggro, they have crazy aggro. But I'm going to take 2 damage and then leave both of these creatures on blocks so that it stops being as much of a race. And then in the future, I can Mutavault to gain life. And also make it a demon. Alright, they have just Hardcast Phoenix, which isn't going to do all that much with the Ritual Chamber Demon coming in the future. Alright. Let's make our demon. Do we attack with the Fear of Missing Outs? I think not. I think we pass this turn. Draw Fatal Push, which is quite good. Can't use it this turn, but in the future we can. And the reason I played an untapped land there is in case they have like Enter the Flood Maw to get rid of my demon, I want to be able to fire up a Mutavault to have a demon at end step. Alright, at this point, we were sort of just chilling. Like, We have card advantage and life gain. They don't. I think I keep both of these Black Cleave Cliffs so that I can discard both of them. And also I think I send in with some attacks because I can untap the demon and get huge value if it works. Alright, they use an entire Otawara on it. That's cool by me. Alright, Chump Block with the Phoenix is fine. Fire up a Mutavault, so I still get my demon value. Yep, opponent concedes. Unholy Annex, strong. Alright, now we bring in all of the Graveyard Hate, bring out Fatal Pushes, Go for the Throat, Blood Tithe Harvester, and run it back. Same matchup twice in a row means I remember exactly what my sideboard plan is, so that's nice. Alright, so we're going to have to wait for opponent to sideboard a little. We were obviously incredibly quick to sideboard this game. Alright, while we're waiting, make sure to follow if you haven't already. Just throwing that out there, just in case. Apparently it helps a lot. I don't know. Alright, let's see here. Waiting on our opponent. Alright, they're taking their time sideboarding. Not surprising, I have lots of Graveyard Hate that I could be bringing in. Lots of Graveyard Hate that I am bringing in. They've got to think about some stuff. Alright, this hand is fine. It's got a Duress. It's got two Duresses. It's got technically some Graveyard Hate. Hitotsugu consumes all, not the most amazing piece of Graveyard Hate in the world. They have a Spell Pierce for my Duress, which means they can theoretically resolve something. I'm going to Duress them again, because it seems like they didn't want this to happen. Alright, well, I'm going to take Sleight of Hand, and then Thoughtseize take Opt. And congratulations, you have basically no cantrips. Alright, instantly top deck Corey Steelcutter. Feels bad, man. But now we slam Unholy Annex and start drawing additional cards. Now, if they make a Monk, I can Hitotsugu Consumes All to get rid of it, but they can't seem to make a Monk. They're just going to be Brazen Borrowing end of turn, probably. Technically, they could, like, 2-for-1 themselves. Alright, let's play a land. Let's Thoughtseize them. And they flash in Brazen Borrower Bounce, which is fine, I guess. I'm going to take the Fiery Impulse. Is my life total safe enough to redeploy this? I think it is, because I have 5 mana to make a demon next turn, and they're gonna use Into the Floodmaw, which is fine by me, because now they have nothing except the Monk. Alright, and we draw Shieldred. Is Shieldred better than making a demon? I think we have 5 mana, so next turn we'll have 6 mana. So next turn we can Hitotsugu Consumes All plus Unholy Annex. So I think the best line is to play Shieldred here. We're not going to be taking a small amount of damage on our next turn with this Brazen Borrower. 3 is not 0. But we're going to be... If Shieldred lives, we're probably fine. If Shieldred dies instantly, then we're doomed. Yep, down to 9. And tap land, go. Yeah, turns out taking all of my cantrip opponent's cantrips is pretty good. Do I duress here? Or do I just make it demon? I think I duress. Alright, not rewarded for it. Let's play... Let's play Unholy Annex, tapped Blood Crypt, fire up Mutavault, gain a bunch of life. Do I attack with Shieldred? Yeah, I think at this point we can start racing pretty safely. They chump block. Fine by me. So we're back up to 15, which is nice and comfy. Yep. Alright. What's that? 4 consecutive games against Izzet Phoenix. It's pretty good. Another 2 match wins, and I'm in Mythic. Alright, let's do another one. Hopefully a similar thing happens. Alright. Waiting. Let's see here. Alright, find an opponent. Alright. Play first. Thoughtseize, Fatal Push, and then an Unholy Annex. Works for me. Turn 1 Thoughtseize on the play, always great. Okay, it's this nonsense. Alright, I think we have to take... God, all of these are good. I think we have to take Spell Queller, because it counters a thing and it makes a body. And, like, we can Fatal Push Rattle Chains at some point, probably. Or Mausoleum Wanderer. Alright. Let's pass. I've just realized passing lets them rattle chains, but actually that's what I want. So I think what I want here is I Fatal Push the Mausoleum Wanderer, they flash in Rattle Chains to protect it, and that gives me a window to resolve an Holy Annex. Alright. They're more scared than that, which is fine. Double No More Lies. I think I just... Like, I have to get through the No More Lies at some point, right? I'm going to play Fear of Missing Out. It's not Unholy Annex. It's not super valuable. But they probably still want to counter it. Alright, 1 counterspell down. Opponent still doesn't have a clock in play, which is great for me. With second Unholy Annex... No, I think not this turn. I think next turn I might fire up a Mutavault and attack just to see if I could do anything. Like, they could flash in Rattle Chains and trade with it, though, which would suck because then, like, I would be down a mana. torch the tower is pretty good. I'm going to play another red source. So I can torch the tower and beat No More Lies. And I'll do it on their turn, so that if they want to spend mana protecting the Spectral Sailor, then they'll have to spend it on their turn. So let's fire that one off. Alright, Rattlechains is in to save the Sailor. It's unsurprising. So now we have 6 mana, so we can Unholy NX and pay for a copy of No More Lies. So let's try and do that. Alright, they let it resolve. And now we just fire up a Mutavault. And I think we attack here. I think if they trade with the Rattlechains, that's taking their clock mostly off the board, which is fine by me. And I have a backup Mutavault to deal with the other one. Alright, Supreme Phantom doesn't change anything about what just happened, except for the fact that they still have something of a clock. But I have life gain now and card draw. And I rip a Duress, which is huge. Thoughtseize would probably be better, but Duress still pretty good. Now I can disrupt their stuff. So let's take whatever you've got. If they No More Lies, I'm not going to pay for it. Actually, no. If they No More Lies, I am going to pay for it. So I could take a 2-for-1 there. Catilda and Supreme Phantom are in hand. Alright, I think we play Fable here. Fire up the Mutavault. They have a Mutavault of their own. They have a Mutavault of their own, so no point attacking with mine. Not that I have the mana to anyway if I do this. Just going to take my life and my card draw. And we rip another Thoughtseize. That's pretty good. They have card advantage engine of their own, which probably could have used at some point during that turn to potentially draw a counterspell or something. I don't know. Right, there's the Catilda. Flying, lifelink, protection from vampires, big old power and toughness. Alright, well we have card advantage over them. We just need to not die. So I think we get rid of those two. God, we're gonna die on our turn, aren't we? I messed this up. I couldn't afford to play the Blood Tithe Harvester. I need to make a demon. Alright. It's fine-ish. I have to chump attack here to get the treasure, which is far from ideal. Alright, chump attack successful. Give me a flying 6/6 blocker, please. Alright. Continue drawing cards. Now, their attacks aren't incredible here. They have the Catilda attack. God, do I block? If I block and they flash something in, I just instantly lose. Oh, they can even fire up Mutavault. Yeah, okay. They deterministically have me beaten there. Oh, Fatal Push is so good. Fatal Push is incredible. Let's Thoughtseize first to clear the way at the cost of our poor life total. God, they have something? Why do they have something? Why couldn't they just have nothing?
I'm not overconfident.
Alright, they have two things. That's kind of a nightmare for me. Alright, if I Fatal Push one of the Supreme Phantoms, Blood Tithe Harvester can kill a Spectral Sailor, but I think I just need to get rid of the Catilda. So let's crack my Blood Token to cycle that, hopefully find more removal. Another Mutavault, not the worst thing in the world. So now we have Revolt, we can kill Catilda. And 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think we're still need to draw a removal spell here in order to be alive. Right, that's a removal spell. Do I do it now while they're tapped out? I think I do it now while they're tapped out. So I lose 2 life here, which is painful, but it saves me like a billion D points of damage because it's a lord on a bunch of stuff. Alright, they make a Night Token, which is fine because I can block that, although I'd really rather not. Like, if I can live to next turn with Blood Tithe Reflection... Okay. So then that's 5 in the air and I go to 1. Hate to see it. Alright, I pretty much need to top deck second Unholy Annex here. Alright, they leave some stuff back. No, they've realized leaving stuff back is dumb. Well, I'll take my only legal block and go to 1. If they had plussed their Wandering Emperor, they would have killed me there. They did not. Just make another Samurai. Fable of the Mirrorbreaker does nothing, and we die. Alright, well, we almost had them there. Bring in the Sweepers. Lots of Spectral Sailory, Mausoleum Wandery type stuff. Hidetsugu is probably good. And let's see, Extinction Event, probably good. Let's see, what do I need to get rid of? I mean, small ground creatures do very little here. Fear of Missing Outs can at least block a 2/2 Knight. But I think we still cut an additional one of those. Let's see, Damping Sphere, not really doing anything. Invoke Despair is comedically expensive. Same with Liliana. We could bring in Anoint with Affliction, maybe, but... Maybe Anoint with Affliction is better than a Fear of Missing Out. And we'll try something like this. A lot more removal, good number of sweepers. Resolving them is going to be hard. The question of this match is going to be, can I resolve my spells? We have a fantastic hand. Turn 1 Thoughtseize into removal spells with sweepers and such along the way. Alright, that's a lot of counterspells. It's a lot of counterspells. Do I take Wandering Emperor, or do I take Supreme Phantom? I think the answer is probably Supreme Phantom, because Supreme Phantom could cause things to live through Anger of the Gods. Also, I might top deck a Duress at some point and take the Wandering Emperor. Is there any benefit to waiting here? Not really. I'm just going to kill their creature. Alright, now we get to once again play the fun little game of, can they get a threat on board? Can I resolve a card advantage engine? They have 2 Normalize in hand, so we're passing. Let's see here. I could hold up Torch the Tower around No More Lies, or I could offer a Mutavault trade. I think I kind of want to offer a Mutavault trade. Like, I know at least a couple turns ago they didn't have any additional lands. And now I'm chipping in for damage. Alright. They do that. And they just pass again. Alright, so if I fire up a Mutavault and attack them, they Wandering Emperor, and I torch the Wandering Emperor because they're tapped out. That seems pretty good. Let's do that. See if we can get them. Alright, then either make a Samurai and block, or exile the Mutavault. Yep. Alright, that's a significant threat dealt with. And I have more Mutavaults. Shoot, they find a Supreme Phantom. That's alarming. If they have another Supreme Phantom, which would be very unlucky because that would be 3 of the 4. If they have another Supreme Phantom, I'm in trouble. So I have 5 mana, which means this turn, which means I could cast a 2 mana spell around No More Lies, which I'm not going to do. We just pass, play patiently, don't get blown out by the counter spells. Alright, they play out a Mausoleum Wanderer, which makes my Anger of the Gods better if I draw an untapped land, although they have double No More Lies. Alright, let's play Fable of the Mirror Breaker. If they want to double No More Lies this, that is fantastic for me. If they don't, we resolve a spell. And then hopefully they'll tap some mana for something at some point so that they can only single No More Lies to beat the Anger. Alright, there we go. That's a wedding announcement, which draws them a card. Doesn't even put a creature in play. You love to see it. Alright, we discard 2 nothing burgers. And let's attack and sweep them. So we get a treasure token, which is pretty cool. So Anger the Gods, we can pay for a copy of No More Lies. I guess they can normalize plus crack Mausoleum Wanderer to save the Phantom, but that's still like a decent 2-for-1. Yep, alright. We got one of the normalizes down, and they're down a creature. And they fire up their Mutavault and go attacking. That's a bit worrying. So they continue drawing cards off the wedding announcement. So let's play an Unholy Annex. Once again, we beat a single copy of Normalize. Do they have another copy of Normalize? If they do... Alright, not ideal. But we still get to attack and make another treasure. And I'm not going to play the Fear of Missing Out and discard my Unholy Annex, because that's like one of my best cards here. Alright, they attack me for 4 again. And surely they don't have even more copies of counterspells. That would just be crazy. Alright, Sheoldred is pretty good. But we're gonna try to do Unholy Annex. Please just resolve. It just resolves. Okay, let's declare attacks, get a treasure token. So then this lets us make a demon and then copy it with the reflection in case they try to do anything funny. Alright, so they get to eat our Goblin Shaman. This is still worthwhile. Alright. Give me a 6/6 flyer, please. And we end the turn. And hope our opponent doesn't have any more stuff. Alright. We draw with Hidetsugu Consumes All. They draw with their Spectral Sailor, but now we have better flying attackers than they do. Alright, second Supreme Phantom makes their attacks better, but I can make a second demon to block with. Mausoleum Wanderer doesn't do anything this turn, and I will just Hidetsugu Consumes All next turn. They don't have good attacks. I can't Hidetsugu Consumes All because I have a freaking demon. Alright. Then this is sack it at the beginning of the next end step. So let's make a demon copy. And let's make a demon copy. And then let's go to attacks with demons. I think we keep the original back just to be safe. So they have to block at least one of these, which is pretty good value. Alright, they block both. Not surprising. They actually did need to block both so that they don't go to 1 and then die. So that's that done. I have an Urborg, so I'll play that on red. And I'll play a Sheoldred. If they have an answer to this, they have an answer to this, but if they don't, then they're in trouble. Playing Fear of Missing Out is risky here because it cuts me off of firing up Mutavault, but it draws me an additional card, which gains me additional life, which is a pretty big deal, so I think we go for it. They haven't had anything this turn. Alright, we get a shielded trigger. Looks like we're going to get an Unholy Annex trigger. We're up to 12. They're down to 5. Temporary demons go away, and we're just left with a pretty good board. So we can make another temporary demon next turn. Alright. We managed to squeeze them out there. That was very, very scary. But we got there. Got it. Turn one discard spell is probably just necessary. Like, I can't imagine winning that game or being so competitive in the first game if I don't know exactly like what counter spells they have in their hand, and also if I don't take their clock to begin with. Alright, we have turn 1 discard spell, turn 2 removal again. Mausoleum Wanderer. So they can Mausoleum Wanderer to counter the Thoughtseize, which is brutal. I probably should have torched it first. Yeah, I think that's a punt, and I think I'm probably going to lose from that mistake alone. Alright, they have Supreme Phantom. And I have nothing that I can do this turn. So we play a tap land. At least make the Verge red. Second Supreme Phantom. Yikes. So now Anger the Gods doesn't do anything. Torch the Tower also notably doesn't do anything. Alright. Well, that's brutal. I think we play Fable here because, assuming it resolves, which it very well might not, it gives me more looks quickly at an out here. And also doesn't deal damage to me if I don't find anything soon. Alright, I guess my out could be Anger plus Torch. Would kill the board. And they tap out. Alright, we probably win the game from that. Let's get rid of Fear of Missing Out and Blood Crypt. Alright. Well, we're gonna go to attacks first, see if they make this easy with a block. They do. Love to see it. Alright. There goes their entire board. And with it, all of their advantage. Now I just need to resolve Unholy Annexes. So how much mana do I have this turn? Oh, I have a Thoughtseize. Even better. So much better. Alright, we Thoughtseize them. Probably take a counterspell. Alright, they flash in a Spectral Sailor. And our Thoughtseize takes. They're just going to flash in another spell as well. Alright. Get lost. Fair enough. Alright, let's play an Unholy Annex. And a Sokenzan. And I don't have a demon at the moment, but I can make that at any point. I'm just kill their Spectral Sailor because it's card draw. And card advantage off of Unholy Annex is the way I intend to win this game, so I just want to cut them off of that axis. So they can hit me to 6 here, and then I make a demon and go back up to 8, and then I'm fine. Yep, that's just what they're doing. Shieldred. Is Shieldred better? No. Ritual Chamber unlock is almost certainly better. Let's crack a map token while we have the free mana to do it. Alright, we even draw a card off of it. Alright, life gained. We are doing well. I think this game is difficult to lose. Not impossible, but we are very far ahead at this point. So let's play a land on red. Slam a Shieldred. Alright, they have Disdainful Stroke. I don't want to cast Second Unholy Annex, because if I cast Second Unholy Annex here, and they cast like a bounce spell on my demon, then I am kind of incredibly screwed. Alright, we're going to keep a Fatal Push. It's a good card to draw. We stay on the defensive. We're just going to draw cards, not take damage, and then win eventually somehow, probably. So if I can get this second Unholy Annex down, then I can have multiple demons. Play an untapped land just in case they have some sort of counterspell. Make a second demon. And now with two demons in play, I am comfortable cracking the second Unholy Annex. And I think I'm also comfortable attacking. Like, I'm going to go to 14 here. That's a lot. This exposes me to Wandering Emperor, I guess. But did not happen, so we take those. Alright, we find Mutavault, and that probably ends the game. We're at 14, we have a billion demons, they have to deal with our board. Alright, cool. We get a win. We are once again one match win away from Mythic. Alright. Let's get our match win and get into Mythic. That would be pretty cool. If we lose this, it'll be like the 4th time we've been one match win away from Mythic and not gotten in. So hopefully that just doesn't happen. Playing against a Platinum opponent. Alright. This hand is great. We have turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2 Fatal Push, turn 3 Unholy Annex. Oh, it's Rafine. Okay. Can I beat... Is the second Fatal Push even good? No. The first Thoughtseize they have completely ruins my game plan. The second one just takes a Fatal Push, so I'm just going to take the Rafine. Alright. We top deck a Duress, which is lovely. Do I take Tainted Indulgence, or do I take Vanishing Verse? I think I take Tainted Indulgence, actually. Like, they also don't really have much of anything going on right now. So I take their card advantage engine in the short term. If they want to Thoughtseize my Fatal Push, they can do that. Especially now that I've drawn a second one. Let's do the old Mutavault beatdown plan from 18. Alright, they just top decked another Tainted Indulgence. Which means they get to look at a bunch of cards. Unsurprisingly, throw away Thoughtseize. Let's play Fear of Missing Out. It tapped the wrong Mutavault for no apparent reason. I'll get rid of a Fatal Push. And we pass. They can Vanishing Verse this, but I drew a Blood Tithe Harvester, so it's not the end of the world. Blood Tithe Harvester also gives me a blood to turn on Revolt for the stupid Rafine, which they have. I don't have the colors. I don't have the colors to do all this right now. Play Blood Tithe Harvester, get a blood. Play a land, but I can't do that. Alright, we pass, and let them untap with Rafine, which is brutal. Alright, they Fatal Push my Harvester. That is fine. Doesn't really matter. Was not expecting to win with Blood Tithe Harvester. Evangel of Synthesis. This is not a normal Rafine deck. They're playing way more draw discard. Are they like trying to draw their deck at Thassa's Oracle or something? Like, what is going on here? Oh, they're Greasefang. Okay. That is horrifying, but makes a lot of sense. Alright. Is Fable of the Mirror Breaker better than getting rid of Rafine? It is not. So we trigger Revolt. Draw a backup card. It's another Fable. We push the Rafine. Pay for Ward. And we pass. Another Tainted Indulgence as just draw 2. And a Fiend's Informant. Okay, we're definitely pretty far behind here. It's not unwinnable yet, but definitely not great. If they find a Greasefang at any point, or, I don't know, if there's some other Reanimator spell or something, then that would be very bad. If I top deck Unholy Annex, then things turn around for me. I'm going to play Fable, get my Goblin Shaman, and I'm going to hold on to this land for looting purposes. My opponent is not the only person who can loot. However, they sure are doing a lot of it. Yikes, Vanishing Verse. Alright. Well, I guess it's better that they do that there. I have to block, right? Like, I'm taking a lot of damage. Go to 7. Draw another useless spell. Like, I could cast it, but it doesn't accomplish anything. And I'm just going to die in a turn or two. Alright, let's bring in Sweepers and Graveyard Hate. And Annoying Affliction to deal with Greasefangs and Rafines. Invoke Despair to crack through the value engine. Liliana is probably just actively bad. Extinction Event is probably good. So what do I get? What do I cut for all of this? I need to cut a lot of cards. Withering Torment is very slow. Go for the Throat deals with Rafine. Torch the Tower doesn't deal with a lot of their stuff. Fatal Push doesn't deal with a lot of their stuff. Like, these cards aren't useless. They're just not hitting the big ticket items that I need to kill. And then the small creatures are good because there's going to be lots of blocking and stuff going on. I want to keep those. Maybe Duress. There's a lot of creatures in their deck. I could see Duress being too much. And then I'll cut one Blood Tithe Harvester because I have to cut something. Alright. We're going to have to win a couple games in a row here. This is great if they have a slow start. If they have, like, a creature and they're relying on the graveyard to get through, then it's fine. I would have loved to have a Thoughtseize on one now that I know that they've mulliganed. But I think this is still fine. We can Unlicensed Terse on 2 or Anoint with Affliction on 2. Leyline of Sanctity. Okay, you have hexproof. That's fine. Actually, just glad I cut my duresses. Put a License First into play. Just have that guy hanging out. Yeah, this is actually fine because I didn't draw the discard start. Alright, they have a Raffine. Well, they have a Raffine's Informant, which is very, very different from having a Raffine. But I have Unholy NX, and I get to start drawing cards. While they mulliganed, and I'm drawing extra cards a turn. Feels good. Yeah, they just instantly concede. Alright, we run it back. Do I cut Thoughtseizes now that I know they have Leyline of Sanctity? I don't think so. They don't always have it in their opener. They don't always have Leyline of Sanctity in the opener. And in any situation where they don't, Thoughtseize is great. We're going to keep this. If they have the Leyline opener, which they do, then that's rough, but they Thoughtseize me. Probably take Fable of the Mirror Breaker, if I had to guess. Invoke Despair is also... Alright, they take the Blade of the Oni. Well, I'm going to play a Pathway on red. And next turn I'll play a Mutavault and a Fear of Missing Out to get rid of this useless Thoughtseize. Alright. Second color of mana acquired. I'm just going to play that. Play this guy. Goodbye, Thoughtseize. Another Invoke Despair. If I can get to quad black, Invoke Despair is going to go ham. But they have a Raffine, so probably not going to get to quad black. Alright, second Fear of Missing Out. Let's discard one of the Invoke Despairs here. And play that, and we pass. Now we have blocks for the Evangel. Unless they do connive stuff, which they're going to. 2 Parhelions in the bin. Okay, that's fine. Completely reasonable and beatable. Just don't ever have a Greasefang. Another Evangel of Synthesis. I need to draw... Did I bring in Anger of the Gods? Pretty sure I brought in Anger of the Gods. Kinda need to draw it now. Alright, in terms of non-Anger of the Gods draws, Unholy Annex is fine. So we fire up the Mutavault, we get our Demon, we draw an additional card. And more importantly, for the current moment, we gain 2 life. So the goal is survive and draw a good spell that gets me out of this somehow. We can double block one of the Evangels here. Alright, they put a bunch of Thoughtseizes into the bin. And I take 9 and probably just instantly die. Like, there's nothing that beats both of these next turn, right? Yeah, okay. We lose the 4th consecutive last match win to get to Mythic. So that's a little frustrating. Still just have to win 2 in a row to get back there. Alright, waiting on our opponent. Alright, turn 1 Duress, turn 2 Fear of Missing Out, and then we start spamming Unholy Annexes. Seems pretty good. Also, we have perfect colored mana. They have mana confluence. Alright. What does mana confluence mean? Are they like a 5-colored deck or something? Who just plays mana confluence? And they're thinking hard. Do they have counter magic in there? They do. Are they dredge? Gross. Well, we're going to take the Spell Pierce. Because we kind of need to resolve our Unholy Annexes. But they are going to get a billion Surveils. 2 bat in hand, 2 bats to the bin. Alright, Thoughtseize is brutal because it means they can bat and take... Alright, no, they take my Fear of Missing Out. That is fine, I guess. It means I get an Unholy Annex, almost certainly. They get more Surveils. They are certainly getting to flip a lot of their library into their graveyard. And what's that? Striped Riverwinder, Samut. What are they cooking? This is not Dredge. Are they just playing, like, value Otherworldly Gaze or something? Right, well, I have only lands in hand, but I'm going to draw a bunch of extra cards, and hopefully it'll be fine. Yeah, what are they cooking? They look like Dredge, but I'm seeing a bunch of non-Dredge cards. Alright, we have successfully stolen their Thoughtseize. Basically free value. And we top-decked Blade of the Oni, which is great. And we top-decked Sheoldred, which is great. Alright, those 2 consecutive top decks might have just won me the game. Like, straight up. I don't know how... Ah, got it. They're doing that nonsense. So they're going to put a bunch of keywords on a single creature. So let's play my Sheoldred and kill them before they do that. Urborg Scavengers. So they get a billion keywords on their Urborg Scavengers and then win somehow. But unless they can get Lifelink Haste. Can they get Lifelink Haste this turn? They can get Haste, but not Lifelink. Oh, but they get to attack to get another thing which has lifelink, so that would be a bat. Alright, pretty sick. And also double strike in there at some point, because why not? Fortunately, we have Go for the Throat to get rid of that. And let's, I think, channel Sokenzan just to deal a billion damage. They chump with the bat, giving me back my Annex. Now they're down to 3. They're back down to 1 again. And I don't know what they could possibly have that beats me from here. Alright. They have tapped a Mana Confluence to kill themselves. Alright, so we need Graveyard Hate, Graveyard Hate, removal, removal. Invoke Despair is kind of removal if the Scavengers is the only creature they have. Same with Liliana. So Duress seems not amazing here. I mean, I guess it's probably fine. No, it definitely seems like Duress is going to just put a lot of stuff they want in the graveyard into the graveyard. And then I think small creatures are no good. Withering Torment is a removal spell for their giant thing, but it's very slow and they can get hexproof. So let's Then put probably 2 Fatal Pushes back as well. Mostly just going to rely on Graveyard Hate to beat their thing, and hopefully they just can't get Hexproof on it. We have a couple ways of dealing with it if they do. Alright, easy mulligan on 1. Not an amazing keep, but we have a Demon into a bunch of Unholy Annexes, and they have a Leyline of Sanctity. Alright, Duress is fine because I have 2. It would be devastating if I only had 1. And we top deck Anoint with Affliction, which hopefully might be able to beat an Urborg Scavengers once. Do I Thoughtseize? I can't Thoughtseize, they have a Leyline. So I'm just going to play Blade of the Yoni on 2, and then Unholy Annex on 3, and hope that that is enough. Alright, they Bitter Triumph, putting Vigilance, Trample, Haste into the bin. No Hexproof so far. Alright, second Thoughtseize with the Leyline of Sanctity in play is brutal. I'm going to be cutting all of my discard magic next turn. Alright, we draw an Unlicensed Hearse. We draw an Unlicensed Hearse. If we untap, we should be good to go. Pick Your Poison is fine here. It does remove my card advantage engine, but now I have an Unlicensed Hearse. They have 1 card left. So I need to read this to know if Unlicensed Hearse can eat the thing they target after they target it or not. I mean, hopefully it won't matter. Hopefully I can just do this proactively. Get rid of you, get rid of you. No cool keywords for you, opponent. Third Thoughtseize. Alright, well, I guess I'm going to be attacking with a Mutavault this turn. Opponent has a card in hand, don't know what it is. Possibly some sort of removal spell, possibly a land. Okay, it's a Gaze. Completely reasonable. Now, Unlicensed Hearse should just be able to eat all of their creatures for the rest of the game, hopefully. As long as they can't get any good keywords in the bin, their deck doesn't work. So even if I have 3 Thoughtseizes in my hand which do nothing, like, I'll draw something to discard them eventually, it'll be fine. They're thinking hard about their Surveil, which means it's an interesting choice. They keep all 3? Interesting. Are they just going to try to cast big creatures? They might just try to cast big creatures. We're in the phase of the game where that might happen. Alright, Tainted Indulgence, discarding a card. Discarding a Samut. And what do they do with their 3 mana? Is it a guy, or are they dredging? They're looking at their graveyard like they're dredging or something. Soulflayer. Alright, well, Samut doesn't have protection. Oh, but that's... Alright, that is a 6 mana creature, so Anoint doesn't beat it. Which means now I'm in trouble. Alright. Maybe could have been more aggressive with the discard, but who knows. The fact that I've just drawn like a Gorillion Thoughtseizes in this matchup where Thoughtseize does nothing definitely doesn't help. Alright, so they can attack me down to 2 here. And I'll take the damage. And then then hope to draw a removal spell for the Soul Flare next turn. Alright, just raw Scavengers. Actually, do I have anything? I guess I can have Menace off of my Demon, but it won't matter because it's just dying instantly. Alright, you get out of here. Alright, we draw a Fatal Push, so we can now be in Chump Block mode. Do I Chump Block with Mutavault or Unlicensed Terse? Actually, Unlicensed Terse is a trade, right? That's Double Strike. Alright, Gold Vein Hydra doesn't matter. Fatal Push that. Fatal Push the Hydra, give you a billion treasures. Then we fire up the Mutavault. Crew the Unlicensed Terse, tapping the Mutavault. Pass to blockers. Make our blocks. Tap, exile the Hydra. And then these creatures trade. And I'm at 2, but 2 is not 0. Alright, Hidetsugu Consumes All can blow up all of those treasures you just got. That's funny. And it will exile the one card out of their graveyard. Not that it really matters. Deep Cavern Bat. Deep Cavern Bat is a 1-mana flying... It's a 1/1 flyer, which is probably just going to kill me over the next couple of turns. Alright. Exile all graveyards. Too late for that to matter. I will attack with my Mutavault. I have one opportunity. I need to draw a castable spell on my next turn. If I draw a removal spell for the Deep Cavern Bat, or an Unholy Annex, or something along those lines, then we're probably winning even. If nothing like that happens, then we're doomed. They get a Zatalpa into hand. Alright. Unlicensed Terse doesn't beat the stupid Deep Cavern Bat. So we concede. And Four Thoughtseize is out. Withering Torment, I guess, back in because it might kill the larger guy. And Reckoner Bankbuster in case we need the value. And Anger of the Gods in case we need to sweep some smaller creatures. Alright, hopefully they mulligan to Leyline of Sanctity again. This hand does nothing. This hand messes with their graveyard a whole lot. I think we throw back Blood Crypt. We're going to have perfect colors with Urborg anyway. Alright, they didn't mulligan to Leyline of Sanctity, but they did have it. So I'm instantly rewarded for cutting my discard spells. God, imagine last game if I just had like any two or three castable spells instead of 3 Thoughtseizes for the entirety of the game. And I never drew any Fables. I never drew any what's it called? Fear of Missing Outs. Just literally just 3 dead cards in my hand for the entirety of the game. Alright. There's some keywords in the graveyard. They're shocking in a Deep Cavern Bat. I guess they take Fable because it's castable soon, or Invoke Despair because it kills the bat anyway. Alright, let's take some keywords out of the graveyard. And also a random card. Alright, this time I am not going to lose to solo Deep Cavern Bat. I have card advantage. I have stuff going on. I have plenty of time to draw a removal spell. The 20-turn clock has commenced. They shouldn't realistically be able to get any cards in their graveyard ever. Alright, we draw another Invoke Despair. Low-key submit 0. Reckoner Bankbuster is great. Invoke Despair kills the Leyline, which is a thing. More importantly... I have... 5... Oh. Invoke Despair does nothing with Deep Cavern Bat. Okay. That's fine. We'll just Reckoner Bankbuster. So yeah, Leyline of Sanctity gives them hexproof. Invoke Despair is target opponent. So that has been noted. They put a Zatalpa in the bin. That's scary. If they have the Delve guy, then I just die here. Alright, Grizzly Salvage. Finds them a Soul Flare. And they hold priority and they can cast it. If I lose this stupid Soul Flare again... Alright. You have Vigilance, Flying, Double Strike, Indestructible, Lifelink, and Trample. Not Haste, though, which is a big difference. Alright, let's draw a card with Reckoner Bankbuster. Let's draw a card with Fear of Missing Out. I need an Extinction event, specifically, at this point. I have a decent number of looks at Extinction event, especially if Reflection Fear of Missing Out survives. Alright, they get to Deep Cavern Bat, see that I have a land. And then attack with their 4/4 every keyword. Alright, so we take like 9 damage this turn. They gain 9. Reckoner Bankbuster, draw me something. Fatal Push is not something. Alright, Fear of Missing Out. Draw me something. I have this Invoke Despair, which does nothing. Find a land. Alright, so if I Bankbuster into Extinction event, then I can still cast it. I don't. Which means I'm dead. Oh god, what an awful match. Just, opponent had all of the luck in all of the games. Like, come on. That was not reasonable. Like, I literally had an Unlicensed Hearse in play, and they just always randomly hit a billion keywords off of a thing, and then had the Soul Flare to hold priority. Alright, one lander, easy mulligan. I'll keep Duress Fatal Push instead of Duress Duress. Duress Duress would have been better, but no way of knowing that in the dark. Maybe if I'm super greedy I could bottom a land there, but it seems wrong. Alright. Quarry Steelcutter, Prophetic Memory, Treasure Cruise. I think I take the Quarry Steelcutter. That is a source of creatures for the rest of the game. Does the rest of these need existing creatures to do anything? Alright, so they don't immediately play Prophetic Memory. They're just going to do some cantripping. Draw another Blackleaf Cliffs. I will play it because it's untapped currently and won't be in the future. Take Lock Prankster, mill 4, puts a Phoenix in the bin. Just finds them a Fiery Impulse, which is fine. Not going to be getting back the Phoenix this turn. I think we Unholy Annex here. I think we have a little bit of time to draw cards before we need to be killing Phoenixes every turn. And hopefully... Alright, that's not an instant or sorcery, and that is an enchantment. So they're making a giant-ish monk. They're making a sizable monk. Let's go land Shieldred here. They don't currently have a removal spell for it. Hopefully, it'll hold this guy back. If they put a billion counters onto the monk, I can chump block with Shieldred, which would be brutal with a Fatal Push in hand. But if they don't put a billion counters on the monk, then Shieldred is the thing that I need to win the game. So let's have it in play. Opponent is thinking that is Treasure Cruise worth it? Alright, they've drawn their card for turn, starting to take damage off Shieldred. Shieldred is very, very good at stopping these blue-red decks from doing the thing. Will it be good enough? Currently 0 spells cast. They need 3 to get back a Phoenix. Alright, they are treasure cruising, despite the pain. They are going to make a Gargantuan Monk. And I think Shieldred might have to block the Monk. It doesn't have First Strike, right? Trample, Haste, Prowess. Alright, no, it's so much worse than that. They have Fiery Impulse and another one to kill the Shieldred. So now they get the Phoenix back, and they kill the Shieldred. And they attack me for a billion damage here. Yeah, I think I just straight up... Am I dead this turn? I go to 1. Alright, well, I'm not accomplishing anything at 1 here. Yeah, I guess that was somewhat to be expected, but... Damping Sphere in, Hitsugru Consumes All in, Unlicensed Terse in, Anger the Gods in, Extinction Event in. Let's see, probably Fatal Push out. It only hits, it kills Monk tokens, but that's not what we want to be doing. Small ground creatures, probably out. And let's go like that. Alright, we're going first. We have a billion discard spells. If we draw lands for the rest of the game, this wins. But I can't keep a 1-lander. This is fine, I guess. Bottom one of the Blood Crypts. We'll go Pathway, Duress on 1. And obviously take the Treasure Cruise. So they have Picklock, Prankster, a bunch of removal spells. So the good news is they're off to a slower start. The bad news is I'm also off to a slower start. Like, I sort of have very little going on once this Unlicensed Terse does its thing. Alright, second Duress, I think is better than Unlicensed Hearse here. I'll take the Lightning Axe, which could potentially kill a Shieldred more easily than a Fiery Impulse. And then they play a land, and now they have Picklock Prankster available. They just do it main phase. Put a bunch of cards in the bin. Alright, let's play an Unlicensed Hearse. No Phoenixes. Not just going to exile randomly. It's better against Treasure Cruise, but much, much, much worse against Phoenix. Alright, they get a Monk token and a Sleight of Hand. I'm just going to kill their Monk token real quick. And get rid of some cards from their graveyard. Alright, Duress is a huge pickup here. Take a second Quarry Steel Cutter. Love to see it. Play a land and go. So if they draw a land, they can hard cast the Phoenix. Otherwise, they can cast a cantrip or something. I would not be surprised for them to be able to go cantrip into cantrip here. They could Picklock Prankster. They definitely have something they can do this turn. I really, really need to top deck an Unholy Annex soon. Like, Unlicensed Hearse is keeping me from instantly exploding, but the situation is still not great. Opponent is thinking. So the equip cost on that is 2, not that I expect them to ever pay it. Alright, Picklock Prankster. The old 1/3 Vigilance. 1/3 Flying Vigilance, surprisingly good. Especially in their deck. They could technically Fiery Impulse the Picklock Prankster to get a Monk token. Seems like a bad idea, but if they really wanted to, they could. Opponent is playing very, very slowly. I suspect that opponents conceding out of frustration to slow play is at least partially how they got into Mythic. Alright. They don't end up doing anything. Just passing. And I will continue eating random cards out of their bin. Kind of don't want to take Spell Mastery away from the moment, because then they could do that for basically free. Alright, we rip the Unholy Annex. Please say your last card is not a red Spell Pierce. Probably fine. Alright, now we get to draw additional cards a turn, which gives us a real chance of winning the game. Opponent is dedicated to roping. Very cool. Alright. Eventually, they will let this Unholy Annex resolve, and they will not take any game actions, because there is no game actions that it makes sense for them to make. Alright, Unholy Annex is in play. Conveniently, right as the rope was about to expire. Gee, I wonder why that happened. Alright, draw an additional card. It's a land, which will get me a demon next turn, so it's fine. There's a Consider. Which means they're not hard casting a Phoenix this turn. They are casting a Ledger Shredder. Alright, that... If they could have done that in the opposite order, they would have, so they just found the Ledger Shredder. Alright. Continue exiling cards. Go for the throat. is excellent. But I believe I just make a demon. And we pass. And life gain is pretty good. So Ledger Shredder connives. Quarry Steel Cutter makes them a monk token. If they can cast 2 spells this turn, it's pretty good for them. But they can't. They can only cast 1. That's huge. And they don't really have good attacks. So yeah, if they want to let me eat a Ledger Shredder or something, then that's fine. Alright, opponent is really taking their time on every game action. Let's see, 22, 14, 26, 25. Yep, they're more than 4 minutes behind. Which means they have spent more than 4 minutes just sitting here, doing nothing. Oh, God. This is awful. Alright, they pass. It's my turn. Play a Mutavault. I forgot to chip away at their graveyard. It's probably fine. I feel like with Unholy Annex drawing me a bunch of cards and Unlicensed Tourist locking down their graveyard, I am very far ahead. Alright, Picklock Prankster Mills. They get a Treasure Cruise, which they can use because I didn't Unlicensed Tourist them last turn. That's unfortunate. Alright, super punished for my opponent's very clever, technically optimal play of being a horrible person. And now they're going to sit here and wait and eventually cast their Treasure Cruise. Yep, there they go. Selecting 7 cards in the bin. Alright, and then that gives them another Monk token and a Ledger Shredder trigger. Which I'm fine with because, like, ultimately I think I'm so far ahead that them looting through their deck just removes the number of outs they have. Which is fine by me. Put a Phoenix in the bin, I will exile it. Alright. They do that. That was purely just a 3rd spell to get a Phoenix back, but there is no Phoenix to get back. So we block the Ledger Shredder. We kill a Monk token. And we go to 12. Alright, I think I did Unlicensed Tourist. I Unlicensed Tourist in main phase. Alright, I think we just... Do we try to turn the corner here? I think we do. Let's declare an attack. This Torch the Tower has me feeling confident. And Monk token is never getting through Unlicensed Tourist on the ground, that's for sure. Alright, they chump block with a Picklock Prankster. And we pass. Draw Shieldred, which should be the game-ending threat we need. So this Monk token would have to get insanely huge to get through Unlicensed Hearse. So that's fine. Artist's Talent is fine. That just draws them more cards, which still don't answer my threats. They get a successful flurry. And they discard a Treasure Cruise, which they can't cast. And they mill Prophecydatic Memory, which is huge. That was like their one niche way of winning, was to cheese me with that. It's gone now. Typically only play one copy. Alright, they do have Floodmaw for my demon, which keeps them in and makes me very, very glad I attacked. Alright, there's a Phoenix in the bin, which remains somewhat awkward. I think I eat Phoenix plus Ledger Shredder here and let them have relatively good attacks with the Monk tokens. Just going to torch the other Phoenix. Not going to chump block with my Mutavault. Alright, land, Shieldred. Fire up the Mutavault, and pass. Draw some cards, gain some life. Extinction Event. Not amazing with my Shieldred on even as well as their Monk tokens, but it would be... If they deal with the Shieldred, it is a plausible desperation choice. Alright, basic land, sleight of hand, probably not going to trigger Artist Talent here, unless they're desperate. They are desperate. So sleight of hand is a cantrip which doesn't inherently trigger Shieldred. Gonna try to find a Lightning Axe. Oh, Prophecydatic Memory is a bit spooky, but I think it's too late. I have enough blockers, I think. Doesn't give trample or anything. So, yeah, I can chump block with Shieldred, or not even chump block. It's always going to be a trade. And they can't draw any more cards while Shieldred is in play. Alright, we go to combat. We put some counters on that guy. We go to attacks. Well, I'm going to fire up the Mutavault. And they're probably going to concede. Alright, if they're pointing a Fire Impulse at the Mutavault, this is just like the best day of my life. Crew using the Mutavault, which I was planning on doing anyway. And then Mutavault dies, which is a bit unfortunate, but now we go to blocks. Block that. Alright, easy win. Alright, let's win a game 3, and hopefully opponent doesn't play quite so slowly this time. Definitely been impressed by Corey Steelcutter. I need to get that card and put it into my own version of Phoenix. It's clearly quite good. I'd say definitely better than the Iconoclasts and whatnot. Opponent is re-sideboarding. Probably didn't realize I have Graveyard Hate, which is surprising. You would think someone who got to Mythic would be aware that the most popular deck in the format plays Unlicensed Hearse, but apparently not. Or alternatively, they are just roping me and using every single second of their time to waste my time and make me sad, which seems likely. At this point, it seems like that's probably what they're doing. Alright, while we were waiting for my opponent to rope, sure to follow if you haven't already. It means a lot to me. I stream Magic on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2 to 5 Eastern Time. And I play Satisfactory Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Same time, 2 to 5 Eastern Time. Alright, we are rapidly approaching the maximum time allotted for sideboarding. Maybe they just left. Seems like, knowing this opponent, they are just wasting every second possible out of spite. Alright, we get into a game. Now we get to wait on my opponent to choose who will play first. Gee, I wonder if they will make this decision reasonably quickly. Okay, yep, we're going to be here for a while. Alright. Actually, unironically, yes. And we have a pretty good hand. Duress into Damping Sphere and Unholy Annex. If this isn't good enough, I don't know what is. Into Shieldred. Alright. The hand is officially cracked. Duress you, take a Corey Steel Cutter. Easy pick. They have a Ledger Shredder. Alright, second Damping Sphere. Not exactly what I had in mind for another draw. I would love a removal spell for the Ledger Shredder, more than anything else. Second Ledger Shredder, but no consider, because Damping Sphere is good. And let's play Unholy Annex and just start drawing cards. I need to draw a way of killing these Ledger Shredders. Blood Crypt is not such a thing. So I guess they need two spells that they actually want to cast. Like, they could target a Fiery Impulse at their own Ledger Shredder as a second spell, which doesn't seem amazing for them. Alright, they shock in a Steam Vents and Flood Maw my Damping Sphere. Okay. That is annoying, but not very surprising that they have stuff like that. Alright, well, I'm just going to play Shieldred. I think next turn I might play double Damping Sphere, which would be very fun. They're pausing like they have a Lightning Axe or something. But they've drawn a card, which means they don't have Lightning Axe. Alright, now they're hovering Shieldred like they do. Alright. They must have just drawn it, I guess. Alright, Ledger Shredder is starting to become a problem. They do only have one card in hand. I guess I'll Duress your one card. See what happens. It's a Picklock Prankster that finds a Treasure Cruise. This is frustrating. Oh no, they take Lightning Axe? Oh, I guess this was in response to a Duress, so it's actually just completely irrelevant. Right. I have to play Fable because I need to find a sweeper for these Ledger Shredders, otherwise I die. I know that this lets them connive some more and potentially grow their Ledger Shredders, but it doesn't happen. I'll take my 1 point of damage. Draw another Duress. I could have fired up the Mutavault. I didn't even realize I played a Mutavault. Hopefully they think I'm holding up black mana for some nefarious purpose. Did they just top deck a Treasure Cruise? Of course they did. Brutal. Which means now they're going to get to do all sorts of fun stuff with these ledger shredders, and I think I'm literally dead. I think Proph's Eidetic Memory literally kills me here. And, like, not by a small amount. Because they've drawn, what, 4 cards this turn. And I have a Phoenix. Alright, they don't get the Phoenix back, but they do get the giant attack with the Ledger Shredder to kill me. And what a, like, just a waste of everyone's time. Like, you could have played faster and then still won, and then you would have won in less time. Like, I guess you just dislike anyone enjoying Magic the Gathering. Alright, hopefully we find an opponent who is actually not awful. Opponent has Nissa and Siege Rhino as their name. Maybe they're playing Abzan. Alright, start off with a mulligan. And we keep bottoming Takanuma, I guess. So we have our colors. Alright, Blood Crypt tapped on 1, Blackcleave Cliffs on 2 for fear of missing out. Opponent has played 2 basic swamps and a Blade of the Oni. I'm just going to play my fear of missing out. If they have an Unholy Annex, they can get 1 life gain trigger off of it before I torch the Blade. Alright, they don't. They do have a Gifted Aetherborn, though. So I think this turn I just turn off their clock. Just get rid of all your creatures real quick. And then they're gonna Fatal Push my fear of missing out. Fine by me, I have an Holy Annex in hand. Alright, I would love to have drawn a 4th land by this point, but I am just going to slam an Holy Annex and start drawing. So I can start firing up Mutavault next turn. Graveyard Trespasser is scary. And let's Duress you first. Take Invoke Despair. Now let's Thoughtseize you. Take Aclazotz. And now we fire up the Mutavault so that we don't take a billion damage to our own cards. Alright. Our opponent has very little, and we have a whole lot. But they are going to get to flip their Graveyard Trespasser, and we don't have an easy way of dealing with it at the moment. That's in their hand, right? That Murderous Rider? I think I have to Thoughtseize the Murderous Rider so that they don't kill a Mutavault. Yeah, they're spamming nice. I'm going to play a Fear of Missing Out. Discard Fable, I guess. Alright, opponent is extremely tilted. Not the most unreasonable thing to be tilted over in the world. I did just sort of cast like 4 discard spells in a row and flip their Trespasser back. Yeah, if that card wasn't anything, they're super dead. Right, let's bring in Invoke Despairs and Extinction Events. And Liliana's Anoint Affliction is pretty good. I have lots of bigger cards. Torch the Tower and Fatal Push probably not super reliable at dealing with their stuff. Let's let them sideboard. Alright, they've finished sideboarding immediately. And hopefully we'll just cast a bunch of discard spells, take their soul, and win. That's too many lands, not enough spells. This is better. I think we get rid of... Sadly, Invoke Despair. It's just so extraordinarily expensive. Alright, they Thoughtseize, take my Unholy Annex, as expected. I'll play a Blood Crypt. And just gonna curve out. Alright, they have a Duress. Now they get to be the one doing this. Alright, we top deck an Unholy Annex. It's not the perfect time to top deck it. They could have a third discard spell. But if they don't, woo boy. Alright, they don't. And they instantly concede. Understandable. I mean, they can definitely play it out, but their hand seemed slow, and like it was relying on stopping me from having an Unholy Annex, and they did not. Alright, let's do another one. God, Magic is fun. You just get to keep doing games over and over and over again until you get bored. See, the big difference between Magic and Satisfactory, at least for me, is that Satisfactory, I have to like think ahead of time. All right, what am I going to do? What am I going to work on? I have to like plan these things out ahead of time. Whereas in Magic, it's easy. You just click play, and then it happens. Alright, opponent has a Tybalt avatar. I have double discard spell into Unholy Annex. They're a Yorion deck, they have mulliganed. Alright, we're going to Thoughtseize on one, just in case there's an urgent creature to take. Probably isn't. Alright. This is actually fine. We take Stormchaser's Talent. That's their source of creatures, and one of their sources of, like, card advantage, recursion. I will get rid of a Go for the Throat, which seems like it's not going to be doing all that much here. Play another land, and Duress you again. Take your Momentum Breaker. So they rely on value of having a lot of stuff to sack repeatedly. I've pretty effectively denied them of that. Now let's get our own value engine going, and we need to find a demon, or we're going to die to Fear of Isolation plus Unholy Annex. Hopeless Nightmare certainly doesn't help. Let's get rid of Bloodtithe Harvester. Yeah, we might just get beat down here. I'm going to 8. Alright, let's play another land. Play Fear of Missing Out. I don't think I can afford to cast this second Unholy Annex. I need something better. Like a Meter Vault, get punished for playing my land proactively. So I'm going to 4 here. Okay. That's terrifying. So they can Hopeless Nightmare me to 4, Fear of Isolation me to 2, and like then what do I do? Alright, so I can gain life, of course, but it's not going to be easy. So the 6/6 lets me gain life and also theoretically blocks the Fear of Isolation. But they have a Momentum Breaker, so I'm going to be stuck at 2. And Hopeless Nightmare potentially kills me at any point here. I can't Thoughtseize, so I'm just going to discard that. Like, I will actually die. Shieldred, but I can't cast the Shieldred this turn. Oh, I'm so close. So if they don't draw a land, I have outs. I guess I'll attack with a Mutavault. Oh yeah, draw a removal spell? No, okay. If they didn't draw a land, the Hopeless Nightmare doesn't kill me. Please don't be on tapped land. Yeah, okay, that basically is the same. I'll concede to that. Hopeless Nightmare loses 2 life. Brutal. Hidetsugu consumes all is great. Invoke Despair is fine. Liliana is fine. Anger is fine. Fatal Pushes are not... Fatal Pushes and Torch the Towers are not great. Most of their small creatures are tokens. And probably small creatures are no good. We'll try it like this. Alright, find a match. And this hand does nothing for the first 3 turns of the game. This hand is pretty good. Does a lot of self-damage, but it does have a Shieldred. I think I have to bottom one of the Unholy Annexes. I need my lands, I need the Thoughtseize, I need the early creature. Double this town, Kieran, Hopeless Nightmare. I'll take the Hopeless Nightmare. It's the only card that actually does anything. They top deck a Thoughtseize, which is incredible for them. Top deck a Withering Torment that I'm just going to discard. I do need to hit a 3rd land, which is looking like it might be a problem here. Alright, we don't hit a 3rd land. We do hit double Duress. So I could take 2 copies of this town ain't big enough. And then miss a land drop. Alright, they have an Omen of the Seas, which does let them start the combo and get some value. And a Nurturing Pixie, which is a 1-mana 2/2 flyer. And I still don't draw a land. Yeah, so this is going to be one of those games where I keep a 2-lander, I have an extra draw, and I just never find the 3rd mana source. Alright, 3rd mana source acquired. Fable of the Mirror Breaker in play. And the Goblin Shaman could be the 4th mana token if they don't just kill it. If I were them, I would kill the Fear of Missing Out, and then this town to kill the Goblin Shaman. Seems better than this. Well, I'm not gonna discard my 4th land. I'm just gonna play Shieldred. Get bounced for the rest of my life, but yep, unsurprising. And we attack you down to 8, technically winning the race. If they... Alright, they know where to run my Fear. Fable will flip. And they play another Omen of the Sea. Makes sense to do that before I just play my Shieldred again. And they probably are looking for that engine guy. Right, fear of missing out could be incredibly strong with Reflection if Reflection untaps. Alright, they take a draw. So that's a pretty good sign. They know where to run my Reflection, so much for fear of missing out synergies. And they Momentum Breaker my Shieldred. So much for them ever not having the exact necessary cards. Alright, well, I will Thoughtseize you. Take the talent. Play a Fear. Draw an additional card. It's an additional fear of missing out. We're both at 6. Opponent has a Momentum Breaker. And Lauren, which randomly blows up Fear because it's an enchantment for no particular reason. They just sort of felt like having it be vulnerable to enchantment removal. Alright, play a tap land, play a Fear. Need to draw not a land. So I go to 2, and then basically anything kills me. Alright. Yep, so that bounces that, which kills my Fear, and they attack for 4. Yeah, just the worst kind of game. You know, like, I played well, and yet there was no point. Like, I made pretty good decisions that entire match, and it just didn't work out. Alright, let's find an opponent and hopefully play an actual game of Magic for once, and not one where my opponent ropes me or I miss land drops forever. I would love to actually just play the game. Alright. Waiting on your opponent. They have Nissa Avatar. And they're choosing which player to play first, and they choose correctly. So another Yorion. We have Blade into Annex into Fable. So we keep. And if they don't have removal for the Blade, this can get out of hand very quickly. They probably will, and then we just still have an Unholy Annex. We also have Urborg plus Pathways, so they're basically just duels. Opponent is definitely taking their sweet time about it. This is going to be another one of these games. Alright, they eventually decide to play a creature. An Insidious Fungus. Alright, well, I'm going to play a Shock Land tapped while I have nothing to do on one. So that destroys target artifact or enchantment. Or does Growth Spiral things. Hopefully they just want to do Growth Spiral things. I'll play my Blade. I guess them not ramping is probably fine for me. And like using this on the Blade is much, much worse than using it on the Unholy Annex that comes next turn, so that's okay. They're looking like Simic. I'll cast a Green Blade, guess them a desert, and then gets bigger based off of deserts. Understood. Opponent is definitely cooking something with lands. Clifftop Lookout. Alright, is their entire deck just cards that give them lands? That faster Green Blade could become quite scary in a couple turns. I'll play my Fable. Get my Goblin Shaman. fire up the Mutavault to gain some life. Clifftop Lookout is just when it ETBs. Oh, they're green shell. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I need to kill this. I need to kill that immediately. Fatal Push doesn't kill it. It does potentially kill some of the other stuff. So I'm just gonna... I guess just continue drawing my cards and hope I find an answer to the green shell before it finds an answer to me. 2 more Fatal Pushes. That is not ideal. I would really prefer, like, basically any removal spell except for Fatal Push. Alright, Outcaster Green Blade. Now they get green shell triggers. And this draws them a card if it's not a land and ramps them if it is. And Arid Archway picking up Boseiju for value. And they have an attack. Please, I've looked at so many cards. Give me a removal spell for the feckin' green shell. Alright, Shieldred is not a removal spell for the green shell. It is, however, a decent play. So I'll play it. And I'll play my Urborg just to make the mana a little less annoying. And this is very, very frustrating. So I could play Fatal Pushes to remove their board. I think I'm going to Fear of Missing Out to try to get one additional look at removal. I don't find it. Right. They're doing something in combat. Do I attack to drain? If I attack, I lose my Goblin Shaman, but I get a treasure, so I can drain them to 6. That seems worth it. Right. And it also gains me a bajillion D life. I guess they're probably going to Boseiju one of the annexes. Alright, they did not Boseiju one of the annexes in time. They've let the triggers happen. Alright, but they have Boseiju'd the Mutavault, which I guess technically works. I have another Mutavault for next turn, and I have a Shieldred, so I'm not taking any damage. This is still quite unfortunate. Alright, give me that land. Tapped. Wait, I could have had it enter untapped and then fired up the other Mutavault. No, I'm a fool. Alright, if I lose because of that, it's on me. I'm still at 18. I'm still at 18, they're still at 8. River's Rebuke. Well, that's rude. Fortunately, they haven't gotten up to the 5 million mana that is needed to make the green shell work. So I will... Let's see here. Replay Shieldred. Replay Fear of Missing Out. Discard Fear of Missing Out. Draw a card. Gain some life. And I guess we pass. Discard Fable, Fear, Haunted Ridge. So if they have another River's Rebuke, I'm pretty sure I'm dead. But they have tapped out of it. So they need to actually do fair stuff now. And they haven't been drawing lands off of the green shell, which is huge. Like, actually tremendous. Another fungus, which can blow up my fear and give them better attacks. But it'll turn on revolt, so I can fatal push a green blade. So it actually doesn't really matter in terms of the attacks this turn. Another fungus. There's definitely a fungus among us. They find a land. They still... This is 10 or more, and they're at 7. They're reasonably far away. God, imagine this matchup, but I drew literally any removal spell for the green shell. Right, they're attacking with everything. That's ambitious. And firing off the fungus before blocks. Alright, this is huge. So that I have revolt now. I can block and trade with the green shell. And just get that out of the way, not looming over my head. And fatal push one of the green blades to not die. Alright, so now I'm at 4. And Sheoldred lives, which is pretty good. Just all in all, Sheoldred living, pretty good outcome. I'm going to plank 2 of these. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna torch the fungus. Play another chump blocker, pretty much. Play a land. And I think we pass. Just gain our life, draw our card. The fact that they don't have a green shell in play anymore is huge. Like, that fatal push was tremendous for me. They thought they had me dead. They did not. Now they're down to 2. If I played another Unholy Annex, were they literally dead on board? Agent of Treachery. That's horrifying. So my Sheoldred, more like their Sheoldred. Has Summoning Sickness, which is pretty convenient. I'm not sure why it has Summoning Sickness. Alright, we're just past the end step. And yeah, so I draw with the Unholy Annex and it triggers and they die. Alright, so we need Extinction Events. We need... God, does Damping Sphere do anything here? Prevents them from casting a bunch of creatures in one turn? Maybe? Oh, they have Aired Archway? I guess Damping Sphere does a couple things. Bring in Invoke Despair and Anger and Liliana and the Bankbuster. They have a billion creatures and not many spells, so Duress seems useless. Fatal Push is awkward, as is Torch the Tower. I need to make some... I think Damping Sphere and Reckoner Bankbuster are probably not good enough to be worth it. And then I will just cut for Fatal Push. Like, Damping Sphere can slow them down if they're having crazy turns, but I would really rather stop them before they have crazy turns. Alright, we're going to keep a hand with lands and spells in it. And they're going to mulligan into Oblivion. And then hopefully we will just top deck a Thoughtseize. That would be the coolest thing. Right. We have failed in Operation Top Deck a Thoughtseize. I'll play a tap land. Alright, Arid Archway bounced the Glass Pool Mimic. I'm going to play a Blood Tithe Harvester. Slightly better on attacks, and they might be having a slow start. So being slightly better on attacks might be useful. Alright. Fungus. Don't really care. They can sack it to blow up my blood if they want. Or, I guess they're going to probably sack it to ramp. Yep. Alright, opponent has successfully ramped. I'll play a Fear of Missing Out and get rid of one of these Mutavaults, which aren't amazing lands when I'm trying to get to quad black. And a Blood Crypt. Find a Fable of the Mirror Breaker. That's pretty cool. They have a Green Blade, which will find them a desert, which lets them surveil. Their deck seems quite cool. I don't know if it's going to be powerful enough. Excellent timed Thoughtseize. If I can take... Right. They don't have a big guy. I will take a Glass Pool Mimic happily. And play a Fable. So Goblin Shaman should activate Invoke Despair next turn. And I have no good attacks into their 3-4. But hopefully Invoke Despair will take that next turn, and then we don't have to worry about it. We pass. They just add Yorion to hand. Play another Arid Archway, pick up Conduit Pylons. Ipnu Rivulet. That's just in there as a desert with colors, I guess. Thoughtseize. I don't think I even need Thoughtseize necessarily this game. Let's get rid of Thoughtseize Blood Tithe Harvester. Draw 2 fresh cards. One of which is a land, which is huge, because that lets us Invoke Despair pre-combat, which lets us attack. Yep, opponent has had enough. Bad day to be playing Green Shell Deserts. I got an achievement for that. Heavy-handed. No idea what that means. Alright, let's play another game. Depending on how long this takes, this might be the last one or the second to last one. Alright, waiting on an opponent. Alright, opponent has been found. They have I can't remember what the guy is called, but he's a Saproling Lord. Alright, we have double Thoughtseize and some other stuff as well. Let's take all of your good cards. Abhorrent Oculus. We're going to take the Recommission. And they concede. Alright. Fascinating. Let's bring in Unlicensed Hearse. And Hidetsugu. Oculus is a 4/4 or something, right? Extinction Event, no Affliction, Liliana. Get rid of Torch, Fatal Push, maybe a Blood Tithe Harvester. Alright, hopefully we have another game where we turn 1 Thoughtseize and they concede. I would not complain about free, easy wins. Alright, yep, they just immediately concede post-sideboarding. Alright, we are once again, for the 5th time in 2 streams, 1 single match win away from Mythic. Please just let it happen. Please just let it happen. I've had so many opportunities. Surely this one will be the one. Alright, opponent's going first. It's a bad start. Alright. Decent hand. Not amazing, but if they're a creature deck, this is good. Basic Swamp. Basic Swamp means this is pretty good. Basic Swamp Thoughtseize means I'm very, very glad I did not mulligan to anything in particular. I could take one of the Fables, and I'll have another one. Alright, we top deck Unholy Annex. After their Thoughtseize. They might have more discard. They do. Still, as long as I keep discarding good cards, as long as I keep top decking powerful cards, eventually they're not going to have a Thoughtseize for them. Like this Fable is probably going to stick. Land, Graveyard Trespasser. Not the worst thing in the world when I have Blade of the Oni. I mean, it's pretty good, but it's manageable at least. Top deck Shieldred. Let's attack. Get our Goblin Shaman so that their Trespasser doesn't flip. Alright, they're just going to make their attack. I will not chump block. I would chump block if I was trying to set up a situation with the Fatal Push. That might be worth it, but I'm not going to do that. Alright, land, Gifted Aetherborn. Small creatures can go away. I was looking for a land and I did not find one. Alright, we go to combat and they're looking like they're going to push. Alright, go for the throat. That's fine. I will attack for 3. Do we just race here? I think we just race here. Kill your lifelinker. Put a 3/2 in play. I think we're just going to try to kill them. And let the Graveyard Trespasser sit around. Invoke Despair. That's unfortunate. It's going to be Blade Enchantment. They draw a card. Am I still confident in winning the race? I think I am. I think if they attack, I don't block. Is that true? Yeah, I think. But they have an additional card in hand. No, I think we stay the course. I think we try to race them. Oh, but they have a lot of creatures to gain life. Okay. With the creatures gaining life, the race becomes a lot worse. Just still no 4th land. This Shieldred would have been amazing at any point in the last couple of turns. Still no 4th land. Do I don't think I get rid of a Fable to find a 4th land. I think I'm fine in this position. Fear of Missing Out, Stonewall is there, Mutavault. My 2 cards are quite strong. If I just top deck a land, it becomes easy mode. Field of Ruin doesn't matter currently. It is basically just a land. They can technically thin my deck to make me less likely to hit, but it's not a big deal. They have one last card in their hand. They're hovering it. They're thinking, please just be another land. Alright, it's a Murderous Rider for the Fear of Missing Out. That is an A+ draw for them. They are... Oh, they don't have... They don't have all of the black mana they need. They could have tapped differently to have it, but I guess they didn't want to. Go for the throat. Still successfully dodging the forced land drop at all costs. I'll get a Goblin Shaman. Should get me there next turn. I am not blocking. Under no circumstances am I blocking my Goblin Shaman into their Mutavault. That would be insane. Well, there are plenty of circumstances that I would, but not these. They're just going to play the Murderous Rider and auto-tap because it doesn't matter. Alright, fourth land has arrived. Do I kill the Murderous Rider? I think I just slam Shieldred as soon as possible and be happy about it. And they will not top deck a removal spell. They will top deck anything other than a removal spell. And a bomb, I guess. Them top decking a really powerful card would be bad too. Just draw a land. Land or a small creature. Graveyard Trespasser would be lovely. Alright, they top deck, and it is... Survey says... Castle Lochthwain. Much worse than usual here. If they activate that, they are just going to die. Alright, they have probably died. They're down to 4. Alright, we draw a card, gain 2 life. We can duress to check for traps, and then go for the throat to Murderous Rider. Alright, what is your card? It's castable. It's a removal spell. Alright, fair enough. Let's kill your Murderous Rider. And I actually think with Reflection in play, because they can fire up the Mutavault to trade, I think with Reflection in play, having literally anything to copy is better. Alright, Graveyard Trespasser is a good draw for them. It's a 3/3 on a board of 2/2s. Not much more to it than that. It's still quite strong. So I can just attack into this with Goblin Shamans to get treasure tokens. I'm gonna get rid of a pathway with a blood token. And then play a land. Okay. I think we have to pass here so that they have bad attacks. And then Castle Lochthwain there is risky. Now they're at 4. I guess Graveyard Glutton is going to gain them some life back and make it fine. God, this Castle Lochthwain might grind me out. I'll be very sad if it does. So I can... If they try to just attack with their Graveyard Glutton, I can fire up Mutavault, make a Goblin Shaman copy, double block, trade it off, and then still have Reflection plus Goblin Shaman for next turn. Oh, this would be a great time for them to not draw anything good and for me to draw, like, literally anything. Oh, they have Field of Ruin, so that line doesn't even work. I can at least stonewall the Graveyard Glutton by chumping with a copy. So then they can't realistically get much damage through. Alright, they are using their timeouts. This is still game 1, by the way. 22-27, as usual. Alright, unsurprisingly, they attack. No Mutavault attack, which also isn't very surprising. They get 2 pings. I'm going to make a dude. Alright, my dude gets Fatal Pushed. And now I just take 4. They are definitely going to win this at this point, just because I am the unluckiest top decker in the world. They top decked a menace creature, really? Alright, channel Takenuma. Channel Takenuma, get back. I mean, I can't cast any of the things I get back, but Blood Tithe Harvester, I guess. Alright, thank you for the follow, Zombie. I am not currently going to be following people on Discord. Sorry about that. Yeah, okay. Super dead. Super dead. Opponent got very, very lucky. Alright. Let's bring in our sideboard cards. Extinction Event, Anger, Anoint with Affliction. Bring out Fatal Push, which is a lot worse against them. Torch the Tower also struggles to kill their things. And Duress is probably good. I assume they've got Invoke Despairs and stuff in there for Duress to hit. Probably just small creatures. Alright. Currently waiting. Opponent has taken a while to sideboard, just as they take a while to do everything. Like, I'm not even playing especially quickly. They're just very, very slow. Alright. They've finished sideboarding. On the play. Yeah, this is fine. Don't want to go to 5. I will bottom Anoint with Affliction. Just keep as many powerful Haymakers as I can and hope that one of them gets through. There's Duress, as expected. Might take the Reckoner Bankbuster. It's not crazy. It's the only castable one at the moment. Yep, alright. I did that. Let's play land on red. I drew this Invoke Despair, but probably never gonna get to infinite mana to cast it. Second Duress takes Unholy Annex. Come on, just... Alright, third discard spell. But we hit the third land, so we would be doing great if opponent didn't have exactly 3 discard spells. Oh, and it doesn't matter. Just top deck it anyway. Just be a professional. Alright, I'm gonna shock that in and play Shieldred. They probably have Go for the Throat here, but gotta try, right? And they are missing land drops, so they're not really pressuring me in any meaningful way. So I'm just going to make a demon. They have another Go for the Throat. They can kill that. So there's a Fatal Push. Alright. Mutavault is great news. Mutavault. Ritual Chamber. Definitely gaining my life this time. fire up the Mutavault. It's a shame that they had all these removal spells for the demons, but ultimately, like, the game is over. I am drawing additional cards a turn. They've finally hit their third land drop. If they play on a Holy Annex, I just Invoke Despair them off of it, and who cares? If they don't play on a Holy Annex, then none of the rest of their cards would ever be good enough to beat me here. Alright, they are thinking hard. Hopefully they're thinking hard about the fact that they need to concede. Apparently not. They could just have Oops All Removal and kill this Mutavault. Apparently they do have Oops All Removal. I will float a mana, that'll show them. Alright, give me another demon. Alright, now I might actually, unironically, be in a little bit of trouble. Like, I have burned through a whole bunch of demons, and they have answered all of them. And I don't have any more in the tank. I have Invoke Despair can draw me 3 cards to look for some, I guess. Like, ultimately, if I don't die within the next few turns, I win easily. But I might die within the next few turns. Alright, so if one of these draws is a Mutavault, right, we get an Unholy Annex, which is almost a Mutavault. Play Urborg, just so that I have Go for the Throat available. Alright. That's huge. So now we have 2 demons next turn, which means we can pretty reliably gain 6. Alright. Or we go to 1. That could also happen. Mutavault, Ritual Chamber, unlock. Alright, we got there. Apparently that Invoke Despair was all they had. Alright, that was unreasonably scary for a game where my opponent was stuck on 2 mana for ages and I was drawing a billion extra cards the entire game. Their hand was literally just all removal spell. It would have been awful against any other hand except double Unholy Annex, but it almost got me. But not quite. Alright, one more game on the draw. One more game on the draw. If we win this, we're in Mythic. 1-lander. Not keeping a 1-lander. Not keeping a 7-lander. Fucking. I guess I'll keep 5. Bottom 2 Invoke Despairs. Alright. At least we get to Thoughtseize on 1. Take the Unholy Annex, so the game doesn't instantly end. Okay, we need to draw a red source. If we draw a red source, we can fear of missing out and hopefully find a third. Alright. We're in this. We're in this to win this. Bottom Fable, so that we need to keep Go for the Throat to kill their Shieldred. We need to keep Fear of Missing Out to find a third land next turn, if we don't naturally, which we do. And we need to keep Unholy Annex to win the game in the long run. Right, there's a Shieldred, upkeep, stop. Out of here. Alright, Blade of the Oni is a decent draw. And that's a demon. I just need them to not discard Spell Me this turn. If I can slam this Unholy Annex, I'm in good shape to unmulligan myself and start taking over the game. They just feel to ruin me. That's fine. I have basics. I'm not an Omega Greed Lord. Basic Swamp. Does take me off red, but don't hugely need red. Liliana the Veil is annoying.
I've come for
So I'm going to be discarding all but one of these cards anyway. I guess that's not true. I could have kept the Blade. Fear of missing out is decent. Invoke Despair is a catastrophe. Alright, goodbye. My fear of missing out. Opponent's Liliana is on 5, which is not where you want an opponent's Liliana to be. It's almost 6. Alright, land fear. Why did it tap both of my red sources? You didn't need to do that. If I draw a stupid red card now. Alright, I draw Thoughtseize. Play a Thoughtseize. Good Thoughtseize. Alright, so they either have to Mutavault Chump Block a bunch or Liliana minus. They Liliana minus their own Invoke Despair. Alright, well that potentially gives me a window to just win this game easily. So they're gonna block with their Mutavaults. So yeah, they block with their Mutavaults, kill my fear. But I kill one of their Mutavaults, which is nice. And I will play an Unholy Annex. And you'd better believe I will be keeping this Unholy Annex no matter what the piles look like. Alright. They are not interested. They just want 2+1. Keep their Liliana around. Alright, well, I'll make a demon. Make a demon, gain some life. Draw a card. Man, imagine if they had cast that. If they had cast that Invoke Despair preemptively.
Normally, I'm the one who chooses who lives and who dies.
Alright, what do the piles look like? So it's sacrifice the one that I choose. So I need to choose the one that doesn't have the Unholy Annex in it. Unless it's literally Unholy Annex versus every other permanent, in which case I might keep every other permanent. Just give me Unholy Annex plus Demon. I'll lose all of my lands to have Unholy Annex plus Demon. They're really thinking hard about this one. It's not easy. Alright, please just make your piles. The Unholy Annex and the Demon are going to be in different piles. Almost certainly. Alright, pile 1, Unholy Annex a couple lands. Pile 2, Demon a couple lands. Sacrifice, Demon plus a couple lands. Alright, I need to top deck a Demon pretty soon, or I'm going to just die to this Mutavault. Alright, the classic untapped Blood Crypt on turn 5 billion. Duress. Alright, Withering Torment. Alright, so it was the illusion of choice. I was losing all of my non-land permanents regardless of the pile. They discard a Graveyard Trespasser for no freaking reason. Alright, opponent is not very skilled at Magic the Gathering. I'm probably going to lose anyway. I can I can play my own Liliana. And start plussing.
Get in my way, tend to regret it. I'm tired of your secrets.
Alright, go to 1. Opponent is probably going to discard a playable card again for no reason. Alright, it was just a Thoughtseize this time. Cool, alright. That's 6 consecutive losses when I was 1 win away from Mythic. And like, that opponent wasn't even good. They were playing a bad deck poorly. Oh, and just slight salt in the wound. I am 25 XP away from my next pack and 1 attack away from my quest. All right. The game's got a sense of humor. Well, we're going to call it there. Thanks everyone for hanging around. Make sure to follow if you haven't already. I'll be playing Magic again on Thursday from 2 to 5 Eastern Time. Make sure to follow if you want to catch me for that. Otherwise, I'll be playing Satisfactory tomorrow, same time. And